Xavier rubbed his chin while he was thinking. After thinking it through for a while, he tapped against the storage ring, and a small bottle full of the purple birth essence appeared in his hands. He opened the bottle and dipped his finger into it. Burning heat was emitted from the liquid. He raised his hand and stared at the drop of liquid on his finger. Moments later, a small purple fire rose from the drop of birth essence. Xavier narrowed his eyes as he watched it. The heat is not too unbearable, but I don't feel as if the birth essence is strong enough to cause much of a difference to the heavenly flame. How did the rainbow-devouring python produce so much purple fire after drinking a tenth of the liquid in the bottle? It looks as if the birth essence is having a much stronger effect on the snake than on me. Why is that so? He wondered. Xavier threw a questioning glance at the snake that still burped purple flames. After observing it for a few moments, Xavier noticed that whenever the snake burped another flame, some of the saliva seeped out between its fangs. When the tiny purple flame came into contact with the saliva, it grew more than 10 times in size. Is the snake saliva improving the strength of the birth essence? Xavier muttered silently. He knew there was only one way of figuring this out. He tapped his fingers on his storage ring again, and a small, empty crystal bottle appeared in his hand. He walked closer to the snake. The snake sensed that Xavier was about to do something, and it did not look happy about it. Immediately, it wanted to wriggle away, but Xavier was faster and grabbed the snake. After a bit of back and forth, Xavier managed to obtain about a half of a bottle of snake saliva. As he placed the snake down again, it threw Xavier some irritated glances. Xavier ignored them. He placed the bottle with snake saliva under his nose and sniffed it. Xavier made a face as the scent hit him. He then placed the bottle on a table and placed the birth essence next to it. With a wave of his hand, he pulled out his cauldron from his storage ring and placed it next to the bottles on the table. With his hand, he heated the cauldron up. Afterward, he pulled out some ingredients that he had in his storage ring. An alchemist could tell with one glance that all of the ingredients Xavier pulled out contained fire-attributed Q energy. Xavier placed all the ingredients into the cauldron, and then focused on controlling the green heavenly flame to keep the temperature not too hot nor too low. Within the cauldron, the green fire danced enchantingly. A long while later, the heat faded. As soon as Xavier put the green fire out by retrieving the heavenly flame, without protest, it withdrew inside his body, making Xavier smile. He then beckoned towards the cauldron with his hand, and 3 red pills flew out of the cauldron and into Xavier's hand. He carefully inspected the 3 pills. They could not be considered medicine pills in the traditional sense. They did not have any healing effect like an ordinary medicine pill would have. If someone weak swallowed them, these pills would leave them feeling very sick. Xavier was not worried that this pill would make him sick. Without hesitation, he swallowed one of the pills. Instantly, he felt the hot Q energy of the pill colliding with his own Q energy. As Xavier let out a breath, a cluster of a hot purple fire spat out. He caught the fire with his hand, looking at it. It was considerably strong, though of course, not as strong as the heavenly flame. Perfect. I will call this pill Purple Fire Pill. I hope it works. It looks like I need to find a target. A smile flashed over his face. He turned around and looked at the rainbow-devouring python on his bed. It was fast asleep. Drinking so much of the birth essence had clearly exhausted it. Xavier thought for a moment. Currently, some of the mercenaries must have been training on the training field. Perhaps he should go there. Meanwhile, on the training field, many mercenaries that were drenched in sweat sparred and compared their skills. The scorching sun was burning on their bodies. Watching them were Yang, Shi, and a few others of the higher-ranking members from the Desert Steel Mercenary Company. They made sure to stay in the shadow while watching. The hot weather was getting worse and worse. It was now the time of year when the heat was at its strongest. Not that it wasn't always hot in the desert, but during this time of the year, it was almost unbearable. Master Lu, it looks like your men and our men are getting along quite well. That is nice, isn't it? Yang looked at the man next to him. Honestly, he did not expect everything to go so smoothly. Secretly, he prepared for the worst. You also have worked very hard. I appreciate your efforts. Lu shook his head with a smile. I am only doing what you tell me to do, he said respectfully. He then glanced at the Ice Emperor Hai, who stood on the other side. Lu had seen the Ice Emperor before and knew he did not want to upset him, so no matter what, Lu made sure to stay on his good side, and this also meant staying on Xavier and his brother's good side. Yang must have noticed. He also glanced at the Ice Emperor. Right now, he did not appear as imposing or intimidating as he usually did. Instead, he was leaning against a tree behind him with a long, gloomy face. Yang laughed a bit. "Master Hai, there is no need to look so gloomy. I've already sent some of my people to help you search for your ingredients in the neighboring cities. If they obtain anything, they will hurry back as quickly as they can." This did cause the old Ice Emperor to smile faintly. "I'm glad you are helping me out here. Meanwhile, your little brother has been hiding in his room and does not talk to me anymore. I wonder if he is scheming something," he stated. "Should you be talking about people behind their backs?" Xavier's laughing voice echoed over the training field. The others turned toward Xavier as he approached them. The Ice Emperor was stunned. Xavier looked a lot better than before. "Looks like you have been recovering very well," the old man said. "Are you completely healed?" he asked. As Xavier nodded and smiled, the Ice Emperor shook his head in disbelief. "You really are insane. What are you even? No normal human would recover from these injuries in less than a month." Xavier did not reply. Instead, he walked to Yang and the others and chatted for a while. He then shifted his attention to Lu. As Lu noticed, he hurriedly took a small bow. "Young Master Xavier!" "Master Lu, are you getting used to working for me and my brothers?" Xavier asked. Lu quickly nodded and swallowed. By now, he has also heard of what happened to the first elder of the Moon Clan. News about his death had spread throughout the entire empire. It was hard to believe that this powerful elder, that was known as the Executioner, was killed by this harmless-looking young man who stood in front of Lu. "Master Lu, I was hoping you could help me with something. There's an experiment I want to try," Xavier said with a smile. He did not wait for Lu's reply. Instead, he walked out of the shadow. Xavier knew that if he was getting too friendly with Lu, the man would get suspicious. Lu was at a loss. Helplessly, he followed Xavier. He did not admit it, but Lu was also curious. They walked for a bit until they reached the training field. There, in a corner, Xavier came to a halt. He raised his head to look at Lu and said, "Use all of your strength to defend yourself against this attack I came up with." "Huh?" Lu's mouth twitched. He suddenly realized that Xavier decided to use him as a human target. Xavier gave Lu no time to protest. He waved his hand. A red pill appeared. Under many curious eyes, he threw it into his mouth. Most of the other mercenaries that were training on the field stopped and walked over to see what Xavier and Lu were doing. Suddenly, Xavier opened his mouth. A cluster of purple flames were spat out and landed on Xavier's hand. On his other hand was a fire created by green Q energy that had a bit of the energy of the green heavenly flame in it. He raised his hands and was about to move them closer to each other. The Ice Emperor, who also got curious, looked over to the training field while keeping a safe distance. "Don't tell me he is trying to do this again. Was what happened the last time not a lesson for him? How many heavenly flames does this guy even have?" The Ice Emperor took a deep breath. After hesitating for a moment, he activated his icy wings and flew quickly toward Xavier. "You fucking lunatic! Do you want to try and get yourself killed again?" he cursed. Xavier was stunned as he saw the Ice Emperor in the sky above him. Suddenly, he burst into laughter. "Don't worry, Hai. I'm not trying to merge heavenly flames again. This here is a normal purple flame that I have modified. It should not cause any damage that I could not handle." The Ice Emperor flew grudgingly closer. He then realized that the heat emitted from this purple flame could not compare to the heat of the heavenly flame back then. He let out a deep breath. "I don't get it. How many tricks is Xavier hiding? Where did he get this purple flame from?" He shook his head and said, "Never mind, you're still a fucking lunatic. I'm not going to bother with this. If you want to get yourself killed, have fun. I don't remember agreeing on protecting you from yourself while acting as your bodyguard." After saying this, he flapped his icy wings and quickly retreated. He wanted to be far away from the scene when Xavier tried his experiment. Xavier shook his head. He then looked at Lu in front of him. Meanwhile, Yang and Shi also joined the others to watch what was going on. They felt uneasy, even though they did not know what Xavier intended to do. Yang eventually could not bear it and asked, "Xavier, what do you intend to do?" "I tried something the last time and almost destroyed the city of the moon. The old man High appears to be worried about something like this happening again." Xavier shrugged as he explained this casually. Cold sweat began to run down Yang and Chi's foreheads. Lu appeared to be terrified as well. What sort of terrifying power would Master Hai be so scared of? She looked at Yang, who could only helplessly shrug. "I think we should get some distance, just to, make sure not to interrupt you." Yang laughed dryly and walked a bit further away. She and some of the others followed. Only a few brave mercenaries were curious enough to stay on the training field near Xavier, though they also walked a few feet back. Lu trembled. Young Master Xavier, perhaps we can find someone else to test this new attack of yours." Lu's heart was racing, especially after seeing how scared the Ice Emperor Hai was of this attack. The Ice Emperor was a high-level Q-master that ranked amongst the highest warriors within the Empire. If even he was scared, then... "Master Lu, relax. The strength of this attack cannot be compared to the other attack. With your strength, there should be no problem for you to defend yourself." Xavier gave Lu a reassuring smile. Lu gritted his teeth. After contemplating his bad luck for a while, he could only sigh and nod. After all, Lu was working for Xavier and his brothers. If they insisted on getting him killed, Lu had to accept this fate. He then summoned his Q-energy armor. Xavier took an acknowledging nod at Lu. He then slowly moved the green and the purple flame closer to each other. The energy emitted by the flames grew stronger and stronger. Xavier's skin crawled. However, the strength was nowhere near as powerful as the last time. Xavier focused all his attention on the flames. He did his best to remember what exactly he did the last time. The light of the flames reflected in Xavier's dark pupils. In the far distant sky, the Ice Emperor frowned. "It does look like it is a lot less energy than last time. Still, without proper control, this thing will explode like a bomb. Why would he mess around with things like these?" A bitter taste was in his mouth. Although not all of this bitter taste was caused by worry. Instead, there was a bit of envy. The Ice Emperor remembered how he had met a powerful person in the Empire of the Sun. That was back when he was a lot younger, and before he was cursed by this awful Queen Medusa. This powerful person was also able to control a heavenly flame. Much like Xavier, however, this powerful person would treat the heavenly flame with respect and fear. He would not dare to merge its energy with another flame. He would have also called Xavier insane. Despite this, it was impossible to deny that something so reckless was incredibly brave. It was undeniably foolish, of course, but brave nonetheless. Meanwhile, the flames in Xavier's hands were about to merge. Xavier's eyes widened. He suddenly realized that this action required an insane amount of Q energy. Just bringing the flames so close to each other had already cost him half of the Q energy in his Q cyclone. He moved his fingers and then stopped. Suddenly, some spiritual energy spread from Xavier's body and was inserted into the flames. Its violent energy began to disappear. In the blink of an eye, the flame calmed down. "Finally!" Xavier cried out. He then moved the calm flame in his hand, and it slowly changed its shape. It began to shrink. At first, it was about the size of Xavier's fist, but after a few moments, it shrunk to the size of a tennis ball. It also started to look more and more like a lotus flower. As Xavier moved his hand, the small lotus flame was floating above his palm. The Ice Emperor kept his eyes locked on the scene, playing out far beneath him on the training field. "He has been practicing. This looks a lot more controlled than the last time. If he had such good control the last time, perhaps he could have killed the Black Snake Emperor," he muttered. Xavier straightened up and aimed the lotus flame at Lu before throwing it. It quickly rushed closer to Lu. As it was only an inch in front of Lu's terrified face, Xavier called out, "Explode!" The sudden explosion caused everyone on the training ground to gasp and tremble. The people who were close by covered their ears. Once the explosion stopped, they exchanged some concerned looks. Meanwhile, Xavier slowly calmed his heavy breathing. His face was pale. He did not anticipate how much Q energy this attack would use. I can only use this attack 3 times before my Q cyclone will be completely empty, Xavier muttered. He raised his head and looked over to Lou. A cloud of dust covered him. Xavier waved his hand, causing a gust of wind that moved the dust away. As the dust settled, a deep pit was revealed, as if a comet hit the training field. The pit was at least 12 feet deep and at least as wide. Thick cracks spread from it and spread like a spider web across the training field. Just as Xavier began to wonder where Lou was, he heard a cough coming from the pit. A moment later, Lou's hand emerged from the pit, and Lou came crawling out. His body was charred black with ash. His Q armor was still on his body, but various cracks covered it. Master Lou, are you all right? Xavier was a bit worried. Perhaps he was a bit too hard on Lou. Lou raised his head as he was out of the pit. He forced an extremely uncomfortable and awkward smile. I am still alive, but if you would have attacked me from anywhere closer, I would not be anymore, he informed. Xavier was impressed. Lou must have known that his Q energy armor would not be enough to withstand this attack, yet he did not dodge. Blood was running down his hand. Xavier walked towards him. I'm sorry. This is the first time I have tried this attack, so I was not sure how strong it would be. If it makes you feel any better, I did not go all out, he stated. I appreciate that. Lou coughed again. I should be fine after a few days of rest. Lou was not kidding as he said he appreciated it. After all, he was the leader of a mercenary company for many years. He had seen Xavier's full strength on display, and he knew that Xavier could have easily killed Lou without any effort. Yet Xavier did not appear to hold any grudge against him, even though Lou tried to destroy the Desert Steel Mercenary Company. Despite this, Lou could also tell that Xavier held his guard up. Not that he could blame the young man for this. If someone does not keep their guard up in a mercenary company, they would be dead within a week. However, Xavier's face suddenly softened, much to Lou's surprise. Perhaps seeing how Lou was willing to risk his life and not dodge the attack caused him to gain some more trust. Xavier walked up to Lou and patted his shoulders. He then brushed over his storage ring, and a high-quality healing pill came forth. Xavier passed this on to Lou. Make sure to recover well. Once you have fully recovered, I will accept you as a high-ranking member of the Desert Steel Mercenary Company. We do need someone with your level of strength, but this also means that there will be more duties you will have to face. Lou's jaw dropped as he took the healing pill. He hurriedly nodded his head. Lou knew that this was a big deal. While he did not really care to gain the trust of other people, he did care about gaining the trust of someone truly powerful like Xavier. This will be incredibly advantageous in the future. Master Xavier, I will promise to do whatever task is given to me without complaint, no matter what, he replied. As long as you are loyal to the Desert Steel Mercenary Company, the benefits you will receive will be unlike anything else. Trust me, Xavier said with a meaningful spark in his eyes. Hearing this, Lou was stunned. He smiled. I understand. Thank you. Xavier laughed. You should get some rest now. Tomorrow, Hai and I will leave the Rock Desert City. Then you will be the strongest person in the Desert Steel Mercenary Company. You better make sure to keep things running smoothly while I'm gone. Leave the Rock Desert City? Where are you headed to? Lou questioned. I'm going to the capital. There are some things I need to settle. Take care now. Xavier smiled and made his way off the training field. Lou watched Xavier walk away. Meanwhile, Yang and Shi walked over to Xavier. Numerous respectful gazes followed Xavier. He did not care for any of them. He smiled at his brothers and said, What? Why the shocked expressions? Yang shook his head and laughed. I thought you picked Lou as your target because you held a grudge, not to test his loyalty. That was an incredible move. Xavier brushed it off. I want to make sure there are no potential threats before I leave. Otherwise, my mind would not be at peace. Why are you going to leave so soon? She asked. Originally, I prepared to visit the capital a month ago. However, with the accident, I had to delay my plans. Xavier sighed bitterly. Then I can finally make my final preparations to face my betrothed. And how do you intend to go about this? I'm not worried about Lady Yan Nalan, but the others. The people who are in the faction of the Misty Clouds are kind of a big deal, in case you don't know by now. And since you killed the first elder of the Moon Clan, I imagine they are getting annoyed with your antics. Even if you defeat Lady Yan Nalan, the others might not let you leave. Worry was on Yang's face. Xavier could only shrug. If they really want to fight me as well, then they can fight me. But I won't give up easily. Hi, do you still intend to go with me? Xavier raised his head and looked at the Ice Emperor, who slowly descended from the sky after Xavier was done with his experiments. Your older brother is right. The Ice Emperor started. The faction of the Misty Clouds is not some clan that can be wiped out by one person. But whatever you do, I will come along. We have an agreement after all. And I don't think you would allow me to back off now, would you? He added. Xavier laughed. Let go of a high-level Q-Master that was pretty much delivered to my doorstep? Of course not. I'm not that insane. He teased the old man. The Ice Emperor shook his head. He expected as much. Xavier stopped and looked into the far distance. There, in the far north, was the high mountain on which the faction of the Misty Clouds lived. He could almost sense it. The time to face them was getting closer and closer. We need to see how things turn out first. But if they give us no way out, then I might try to merge the two heavenly flames again. An insane grin spread on his face. The Ice Emperor was unsure if Xavier was just messing around, or if he was being serious. What a lunatic! The faction of the Misty Clouds really made a mistake by upsetting him, no matter what it was that they did, he murmured. It was a clear night. Countless stars were scattered in the dark sky, sparkling like diamonds. The moon was almost full, shining some cold silver light onto the desert. Meanwhile, in a quiet courtyard, the three brothers, Xavier, Yang, and Shi, lay on soft chairs, with their heads raised towards the sky, to watch the stars and wish upon shooting stars. Occasionally, they would lift the wine cup that was next to them on a small table and pour wine for each other. Xavier eyed his two older brothers. They were slightly tipsy by now. He slowly stood up and tapped his fingers against his storage ring. Two scrolls appeared in his hand. He placed them on the small table next to his brothers. These are two XX high-level Q methods. One has a wood attribute, the other has a lightning attribute. They are perfect for both of you. Within each Q method is also a XX high-level D method that was specifically picked to match the Q method, he informed. Hearing this, Yang and Shi suddenly straightened up. Their eyes widened. Just one of those scrolls alone was a treasure. In the Rock Desert City, treasures like these could not be found on any market, even if one had the necessary money to buy them. Moreover, a Q method that also contained a D technique to form a set made it even more valuable. Even the level-headed Yang could not contain the desire in his eyes as he looked at the scrolls. He carefully raised the scroll containing the wood attribute and inspected it. If these two scrolls were auctioned, they could fetch at least 3 million gold coins. Yang let his fingers brush gently over the scroll. He has come in contact with monsters before, and therefore could tell that the scroll was made of leather from a level 4 monster. Xavier smiled and nodded. He did not tell his brothers that he did not spend any money to get them. He only got them thanks to Lao. Where he got them from, Xavier could not say either. There were at most 10 people within the Empire that could afford priceless treasures like these. Xavier decided not to question Lao too much. Not that this was possible right now anyway. Lao was still fast asleep, recovering his spiritual strength. I wanted to give them to you the last time I was here, but I forgot because I was in a rush. Sorry about that. Xavier gave his brothers an apologetic smile. Yang waved it off. Don't worry. We appreciate it. Are you sure you want to give them to us, though? They are incredibly rare. Xavier nodded. Of course I am sure. Otherwise, I wouldn't have mentioned it. Either way, everything else has been arranged. Tomorrow morning, I will leave. Yang smiled. I understand. No matter what, she and I will wait here until we hear about how you destroyed the faction of the Misty Clouds. Warmth arose in Xavier's heart. He raised his wine glass and emptied it with one big gulp. He was happy to hear that his brothers had so much faith in him. They know him well, even though they were not related by blood. She patted Xavier's shoulders. I hope Yang is not putting too much pressure on you with his words. Even if you would fail, he will make sure to come up with a plan to avenge you. He grinned. It was clear to both his brothers that she was just messing around. Of course, neither she nor Yang had any way of fighting the faction of the Misty Clouds. Xavier laughed. I hope this won't become necessary. I would feel bad if I would get either of you into trouble. Yang waved Xavier's concern off. Don't worry. She is only messing around. You know how he is. Either way, make sure to be strategic and careful when facing the faction of the Misty Clouds. In the desert, the fierce monsters that fletch their fangs and claws are not the most frightening beasts. Instead, it is the venomous snakes who conceal themselves under the yellow sand and wait for an opportunity to strike. Xavier nodded. He smiled as he heard his brother talk like that. Yang has always been this way. Ever since they met, far-sighted, calm, reasonable. Yang was the voice of reason. She, on the other hand, was a lot more temperamental. Nonetheless, he was also smart enough to know when to stay quiet. He also nodded and agreed with Yang. They kept chatting until late at night while drinking, laughing, and telling each other stories. It was long past midnight as Xavier staggered into his comfortable bed. He knew he had a long journey ahead. The next morning, Xavier did not bother to tell anyone goodbye. He already said goodbye to his brothers last night, and he did not want to bother the busy mercenaries who were making their way to train and work. He walked out of the Desert Steel Mercenary Company and waited for the Ice Emperor to show up as well. Once he showed up, they both spread their wings and shot high into the sky, making their way to the capital. From there, it was not too far to the faction of the Misty Clouds when the time to face them came. Xavier, why do you want to go to the airport instead of flying directly to the capital? Our wings would be a lot faster. The Ice Emperor was surprised as he heard of Xavier's plan to head to the capital from the airport. Xavier flushed red. He hoped that the Ice Emperor did not see it. The true reason was that he now could not rely on Lao's Q energy anymore. To the capital, it would be at least 1,000 miles. Without Lao's powerful Q energy, he would never be able to reach this. Even with Xavier's evolved Q method and the high amount of Q energy in his Q cyclone, Xavier would run out of Q energy sooner or later. And if this happened, the Ice Emperor would surely notice that Xavier was not as high-ranking as he expected him to be. After all, he was just a level 6 true master, with Heavenly Flame or not. And the last thing Xavier wanted to do was upset the old man with the truth. I want to study my Heavenly Flame while traveling, just so I can prepare myself for the fight against the faction of the Misty Clouds. I need to be as prepared for this as possible. Anyway, aren't you still looking for the ingredients for the purple recovery pill? We can make some stops in the bigger cities and look for ingredients there. The chance of finding any ingredients in a bigger city is higher after all, he uttered. This pleased the Ice Emperor. He still thought that Xavier was hiding something, but as long as he would get the purple recovery pill, the Ice Emperor did not care for any secrets Xavier might have. Seeing that the Ice Emperor did not push the subject further, Xavier relaxed. They kept flying, and in the afternoon, reached the city near the airport. They landed near the city gate and continued to walk from there. Meanwhile, Xavier got dressed in his level 2 alchemist robe. This prevented the guards from asking any annoying questions. Xavier was too exhausted to deal with any of them. Once inside the city, the Ice Emperor immediately took the lead. Naturally, he only did so because he wanted to find the ingredients for the purple recovery pill as soon as possible. He was glad to see that there were a handful of shops selling medicine ingredients. However, he would leave each of them empty-handed, much to his disappointment. He knew that the ingredients he needed were rare, but he had no idea just how rare. Eventually, the Ice Emperor convinced Xavier to make a stop at an auction house in the city, but they could not find any needed ingredients there either. Xavier decided to grab some other ingredients that he was interested in and stock up his inventory. The Ice Emperor was unhappy about this. When I said I want to go to the auction house, I did not mean so that you can go on a shopping trip, he blurted. Xavier shrugged this off. I told you the ingredients are hard to find. What did you expect? Besides, I needed some ingredients. How else am I going to keep refining medicine pills? I bought some stuff in Rock Desert City before leaving my brother's, but you can only find very basic ingredients in a small city like that. Anyway, we should head to the airport. The Ice Emperor agreed. Together, they made their way to the airport of the city. With Xavier's status as a level 2 alchemist, the two of them were greeted with a warm welcome and offered a luxurious giant bird for their journey toward the capital. Just like on the last flight, their airplane was a giant bird. with a cabin attached to its back. Inside were several rooms. Despite its small outside appearance, the cabin provided enough space for at least a dozen rooms. Xavier's room was quite spacious too. He was glad about this. He needed some space. As soon as he sat down in his room, he crossed his legs and trained. While the giant bird carried them to their destination, there were a lot of other alchemists on their flight. But Xavier did not bother much with them. He had no interest in getting into trouble or ending up on a different mission. Right now, he had enough to deal with. The meeting with him and Lady Yanna Lan was coming closer and closer. Besides, none of the other alchemists appeared to be from the Empire of the Heavens. The last time Xavier bothered with any foreign alchemists on a flight, he ended up in massive trouble. Right now, he could not afford this. Without Lau's help, he would be screwed. Even though the old man left him some of the white heavenly flame in case of an emergency, Xavier had a feeling that he would need the white heavenly flame later on, and therefore should not waste it. However, on one occasion, as Xavier went out of his room for a moment, he heard the words, "Alchemist Assembly." He kept wondering where he had heard these words before, until he remembered Grandmaster Talun from the Alchemist Society. "I totally forgot. He even told me I should show up to the Alchemist Assembly. No wonder there are so many foreign alchemists on this flight. They must all be headed there. I imagine that there must be many rare ingredients." Xavier mused for a moment. Silently, he calculated if he had enough time for a visit there. Perhaps he could find some artifact or formula that could help him to recover Lau's spiritual strength and wake him up. "I guess I can make one short stop there," he concluded after thinking for a while. He headed to the back of the cabin on the giant bird and looked out of the large window. After 7 days of flying, a gigantic, magnificent city appeared. Xavier's heart skipped a beat. This city was larger than any he had ever seen before. Thousands of buildings were scattered throughout the city, all directly next to each other. The city did not seem to stop. Even on the far horizon were still buildings. Xavier watched from the left to the right. There, in the far north, he could see an imposing mountain that loomed over the capital. The mountain of the misty clouds. "Yanna Lan, I hope you've prepared yourself. I am not as weak as I used to be 3 years ago. I am looking forward to teaching you a lesson for humiliating me," he hissed. "Damn it, these giant birds are awful. I'm not going to fly this way ever again." The Ice Emperor Hai cursed loudly as he stepped out of the cabin on the back of the giant bird. "These things are awfully slow. We should have used our wings, and we would have arrived several days earlier. Didn't you say you don't want to waste any time?" Xavier gave the Ice Emperor an apologetic smile and made his way down while inhaling a few deep breaths. "The capital is incredible. I knew it would be larger than the other cities I've seen, but this is really mind-blowing. And I already thought the City of the Moon was enormous. Compared to the capital, the City of the Moon is just some village." The Ice Emperor laughed. "I keep forgetting that you are not from the Empire of the Heavens. It is the capital for a reason, you know. I myself have been here numerous times, especially before I had my encounter with Queen Medusa. But let's not talk about that. When are we heading to the faction of the Misty Clouds?" "We still have half a month of time," Xavier replied. He kept looking around as he talked. He had no idea how he would be able to find his way around in this city. "Still half a month? What are we going to do during this time?" The Ice Emperor was clearly unhappy. Silently, he was hoping Xavier would tell him to keep searching for the ingredients they needed to refine the purple recovery pill. "I think we should head to an auction house first and look around. I've heard that there is one really big one in the capital where most business transactions take place. There should be some ingredients we need. Afterward, we will make a trip to the Alchemist Society headquarters. There will be the Alchemist Assembly this year, and I want to take a look. Also, there should be some more useful ingredients." Xavier gave the Ice Emperor a knowing smirk. The old Ice Emperor laughed a bit. "Oh well, it would be a shame to miss a big event like the Alchemist Assembly, especially when traveling with an alchemist. I imagine there will be a lot of powerful alchemists this year, fighting for attention. I always envied you alchemists. The sort of treatment you receive is truly something else. I noticed this as we were traveling with this giant bird. The people there did their best to make you as comfortable as possible. I think they would have killed someone for you if you would have asked for it." Xavier laughed a bit, but shook his head as he heard the Ice Emperor's exaggerated assumptions. It has its benefits to be an alchemist, but it also has its limitations, especially if you want to stay incognito. The Ice Emperor hummed. I understand where you are coming from, especially when thinking about the Pill King Lucian. However, before he showed up at the Alchemist Assembly a few years ago, almost no one knew his name. Back then, I believe he was a level 4 alchemist. Only after catching the eye of the previous leader from the faction of the Misty Clouds did he gain as much popularity as he did. With the support of the faction of the Misty Clouds, he has quickly risen to the famous level 6 alchemist he is today. I'm not sure how long it would have taken him to become a level 6 alchemist without the support of the Misty Clouds. Xavier was surprised to hear that. How do you know all of this? You said you're not an alchemist. The Ice Emperor shrugged and put his hands in his pockets while continuing to stroll next to Xavier. No, but I have come around a lot and met many powerful people. Some of them were alchemists, who were willing to share a few secrets with me. Don't misunderstand this. I am far from knowledgeable when it comes to alchemy, but it is a very interesting topic. Alchemist or not, no one would deny this. Xavier nodded. He understood very well. There was a sense of mystery and power surrounding the subject of alchemy. These are things that interest almost every person in this world. To get a small glance into the life of an alchemist was something a lot of people would have died for. Are you going to look for financial support while you're there? The Ice Emperor looked at Xavier with curious eyes. Financial support? What do you mean? Xavier questioned. The Ice Emperor rolled his eyes. What sort of level 2 alchemist are you? All right, let me explain. Alchemy is a very costly profession. I'm sure you know this. I don't even want to ask you how many gold coins these ingredients have cost you that you bought after we left Tag Desert. A lot of alchemists look for financial backers for the Alchemist Assembly. A huge power that promises financial support, like the faction of the Misty Clouds, for example, could make sure that you will never have to run out of ingredients. Oh, I understand, Xavier said. I'll be honest, I'm not really interested in this sort of thing. Secretly, he thanked Lau for being his supporter. Without him, Xavier undoubtedly would be interested in some financial backer. I should have figured that someone who can refine a level 6 pill has no need for any financial supporter. There is no doubt that you must be swimming in gold coins from selling high-level pills. The Ice Emperor laughed loudly. Xavier also forced a laugh, but did not add anything to it. Guilt plagued his heart. Xavier was only a level 2 alchemist, though perhaps he could pass the test of a level 3 alchemist by now. Regardless, he has never refined any level 6 pill. The person who refined the level 6 pill for the Ice Emperor was Lau, and the highest pill Xavier could refine was a low-quality level 3 pill. Once more, Xavier hoped that Lau would wake up in time. He had no idea how the Ice Emperor would react if he learned about the truth. Perhaps he would just storm off angrily. Perhaps he would challenge Xavier to a fight. Well, Xavier did not worry about having to fight the Ice Emperor, since he could still rely on his heavenly flame. He was worried that the Ice Emperor would also demand the map fragment back. After all, the only reason the Ice Emperor agreed to come along was because he assumed that Xavier could refine a pill for him. Xavier felt like a sheep in wolf's clothing. So many powerful people spent their time with him, and some even grew terrified of him. None of them suspected that Xavier was only a true master. Look, we've arrived at the auction house. The Ice Emperor brought Xavier back to reality. Oh, that was quick, Xavier said, and stopped. He raised his head and looked at the majestic building in front of him. So this is the largest auction house in the Empire. I can see why. He was not exaggerating. The building was enormous. It was built with something that could have been white marble. Many pillars surrounded it. Some of them were carved to make them look like ancient statues. Xavier counted 5 floors. Perhaps there were some more down below the ground floor. A lot of rich people had more than one floor below the ground floor. It was a great way of creating more space without having to buy more houses. Xavier remembered the unassuming shop of the Ice Emperor, who was also reaching far, far beneath the earth. The Ice Emperor did not look as impressed. He must have been here before. Still, he knew how overwhelming this must have been for Xavier. Silently, he thought back to his first visit here. He could not even remember how many years ago this was. It really is something else, isn't it? And not only is it the largest auction house within the Empire, but it is also the headquarters of the premier family. That explains the family crest above the door. I thought I have seen it before. Xavier looked at the family crest. It looked like the one that was above the door of the auction house in Wu-Tan City. It has been a long time since Xavier had been there. He wondered how Lady Fi and Master Tao were doing. This family crest is on every auction house that is owned by the Premier family, and there are a lot of those auction houses. I can think of at least a dozen from the top of my head, but I am sure that there are many more than that. I don't know if I've been to every auction house they own. These auction houses are part of the reason why the Premier family is one of the 3 wealthiest and largest families within the Empire of the Heavens. They have a long and rich history. Even the Moon Clan would pale when compared to them. Thinking about it, the Moon Clan could hardly compete with any of the larger families. The only reason they got so arrogant was because of the support from the faction of the Misty Clouds. Without them, the Moon Clan could not have afforded such arrogance. The Ice Emperor chuckled a bit. Xavier nodded without looking away from the building. Thousands of people were swarming around it. Some would enter, and some would leave. Then let's go and take a look. I want to see what sort of things they are auctioning off. I imagine there will be a lot more priceless treasures than there were in the small premier auction house in Wu-Tan City, Xavier uttered. Xavier and the Ice Emperor walked into the gigantic premier auction house in the capital. Xavier struggled to enter with the masses of people next to him. He felt like a sardine. It was hard to breathe. Occasionally, he would smack someone next to him whenever he felt someone reach for his storage ring. The smacks were hard enough to draw blood. Whenever he did so, he raised his hand and threw them an angry glare. I can't believe there are so many thieves. Fucking assholes. Xavier cursed. He remembered his time running the marketplace. Luckily, he had learned a thing or two about avoiding thieves back there. This was coming in handy right now. Of course there are. The Ice Emperor murmured next to him. With so many rich people in this building, this scum is not far away. They are luring in the entrance, waiting for someone rich to come by like a bunch of vultures waiting for some cadaver. Xavier sighed. Yeah, that makes sense. I hope there will be less scum once we're inside the main hall. He continued walking and finally walked into the main hall, under the inspection of numerous guards. Once inside, a gentle light poured over him. The noisiness from outside died down. It was as if he had just entered a completely new world. And the inside of the building was even more impressive than the outside. Everything was decorated with crystals. Giant chandeliers were hanging from the ceiling, decorated with gems and gold. On the walls were enormous oil paintings of important members of the Premier family. It showed the entire history of the family. Xavier could tell that countless guards were looking at him up and down. He tried to count the guards, but with a large number of people, it was impossible. After counting more than 20 guards, he gave up. Each of them wore the family crest proudly on their chest. Clearly, they were very dedicated to the Premier family. I finally understand what you meant as you said the Moon Clan would pale in comparison. This sort of lifestyle is very different. Xavier raised his head to the ceiling, looking at the oil paintings that were decorated with gold and diamonds. The Ice Emperor, who kept following Xavier like a ghost, nodded. Xavier walked around for a bit until he walked up to one of the many tables in the hall. On one of these tables, many priceless items and ingredients were on display. They were locked behind secure glass to make sure none of the thieves could get their hands on them. Xavier checked the price tags for some of the items. The cheapest ones were about 30,000 gold coins, which was already too much for most people. Xavier saw the disappointed glances of some people as they saw the price tags. He understood this too well. A few years ago, he could not have dreamt of getting so many golden coins. Now, thanks to Lao, he would never have to worry about being poor again. One of the perks of being an alchemist, Xavier sighed silently. The Ice Emperor walked up to Xavier and stopped as he said, These are the counters for the outer sales. Most things that are sold here are not too valuable. After all, we are still in the hunter-level area. Hunter-level area? What do you mean? Xavier was confused. This was the first time he had heard of an area with a level. Oh, I forgot. This is your first time here. Maybe I should explain the auction house a bit more. Just like the Q methods, the auction house is divided into ranks. The outer area is part of the lowest rank, Hunter. Here, you can find the items and ingredients that are not that noteworthy. Then you have the XX level auction area, which contains some more interesting items. And then, of course, come the Diamond and Titan auction areas. The Titan level auction area only opens very rarely, once every few years. However, when it opens, it is truly a spectacle. The most powerful people swarm here from all the empires to get their hands on any of the items at a Titan level auction. The Ice Emperor explained. Have you ever been to one of those? Xavier raised an eyebrow. The way the Ice Emperor swooned about this Titan level area auction made Xavier believe it comes from experience. Just as he expected, the Ice Emperor nodded without hesitation. I even remember the first one. I have heard that the auction house was auctioning a fire-scale crocodile. People said that if a fire-scale crocodile hatched successfully, it would be born on the level of a Q Master. Xavier's eyes lit up. A monster pet that is born on the level of a Q Master? That sounds incredible. I've never heard of a monster like this. How can you join a Titan level auction? If you want to enter the Titan level area, or the Diamond and XX level areas, you need to have proof of your worth. 1 million gold coins should do. You don't happen to have that much money with you, do you? As an alchemist, you must be incredibly wealthy. The Ice Emperor gave Xavier a curious look. Xavier flushed red and awkwardly rubbed the back of his head. Yeah, but I don't want to travel with all of my wealth, so I left most of my stuff at home. He lied. I only have about 300,000 gold coins with me. The face of the Ice Emperor dropped. He was hoping Xavier would be carrying more with him. After all, he needed to get the rare ingredients for the level 5 purple recovery pill, and they most likely were very expensive. I suppose I can't blame you. There are a lot of thieves around. Unfortunately, that means we won't get further than the hunter level auction area, he informed. Xavier helplessly shrugged his shoulders. He was about to add something when he suddenly saw something in the corner of the hall. A moment ago, this corner was almost empty. Now suddenly, there were dozens of people swarming around. Did something happen? Xavier asked, confused. The Ice Emperor shook his head. Looks like some prominent person just entered through the door over there. I wonder who it is. Xavier blinked. He tried to look over the countless people. It was hard to see anything. All he could see between the masses of people was a sparkling red dress and a pair of long, slender legs that were exposed by a slit in the dress. On the feet that belonged to those legs were a pair of red boots that matched the dress. With every step the woman took, the heels clacked against the stone ground of the hall. It sounded like music to one's ears. Many of the men surrounding her could not hide their desire in their eyes. Xavier could only roll his eyes. Sure, those are some nice legs, but to act like this because of them, aren't they embarrassed? Who is she anyway? Xavier tried to get closer to see more. Eventually, he saw an extravagant silver belt that highlighted the narrow waist of the woman. Xavier could tell that whoever she was, she must have been incredibly influential. Probably an auctioneer, he murmured. With a gorgeous auctioneer, this auction house could sell someone sand in a desert for 1 million gold coins. I bet many people only show up to see her. Just look at this bunch of perverts. He shifted his attention toward the Ice Emperor and kept joking around for a bit. Meanwhile, the woman in the red dress remained calm. On her full red lips was a smile. She clearly had learned how to deal with being the center of attention of men like the ones surrounding her. If she was an auctioneer, then it made sense that she was used to it, and she would not complain about these men hitting on her. It was part of her job, and therefore, her source of income after all. And judging by the look of it, her income could not have been low. The woman kept walking. She let her big eyes with long eyelashes wander through the hall to see what people were visiting today. She knew some of the customers very well. They had become a part of her family of sorts. She knew the backgrounds of most of her customers, and also how wealthy they were. Now she was on the lookout for anyone that would be of interest to her. Unfortunately, none of the people near her were what she was looking for. Most of them were only chiefs and elders of some smaller clans. She recognized some of them and gave them a polite hello, but nothing else. She kept looking through the hall until, as the woman in the red dress saw the young man dressed in black, she stopped walking. She gasped. As the men around her heard this, they could not help but feel jealous. Suddenly, Everyone glared at the young man who had become the center of attention from the woman in the red dress. Xavier, who could tell that he was being stared at, ignored these glances. This was nothing new to him. Instead, he tilted his head and looked at the woman in the dress that walked closer to him. He also suddenly recognized her and laughed. "I should have known it was you. Who else could get so much attention just by walking through a hall?" The beautiful woman in the red dress smiled as well as she saw Xavier's warm, familiar smile. She could not believe that this was the same young man from 3 years ago. Back then, he was only reaching slightly above her chest. Now, he was taller than her.
"Xavier, it has been so long. You really have grown up. I almost did not recognize you,"
she uttered.
"It is also great to see you, Lady Phi," Xavier laughed. "It's a shame that you left Wutan City. I imagine the men there must feel quite bad about losing you,"
he added. He thought back at his first time in the auction house in Wutan City, and how all the men stared at her. They looked at her with desire in their eyes, much like the men here. Lady Phi shrugged.
"I am done with the mission that my clan sent me to. Now I had to return to take some things over. However, I should thank you for this. I'm glad you are here, so I can thank you in person."
What she did not say was how glad she was to have someone in front of her that had no desire in their eyes. Xavier's eyes were clear and friendly. There was no hidden lust in them. He looked at her like a human being, not something to pleasure himself with. As she raised her head, she saw that Xavier rubbed the back of his head awkwardly, as if he was unsure what to say. She laughed.
"Since when are you so shy?"
"I've always been shy," Xavier retorted, making Lady Phi laugh even more.
"Oh, please. You were not shy at all 3 years ago. I remember the way you acted when I discovered your secret identity as the mysterious alchemist,"
she replied. Xavier felt helpless.
"Anyway, Xavier, why are you in the capital? Is it because of the agreement with Lady Yan that I have heard about?"
she questioned. Xavier thought for a second and then nodded. "Yes. For the past 3 years, I've gone through a lot to make sure I can face Yan Nalan without embarrassing myself. I hope all of this was worth it." Lady Phi nodded slowly. Although she did not know what hardships Xavier was talking about, she knew that he was not someone who would exaggerate. The young man looked a lot more mature now. His face was less soft. Phi shook her head.
"It has been 3 years, yet it appears like you have not lost any of your stubbornness. But don't worry, the faction of the Misty Clouds won't dare to harm your Shao clan, even if you would upset each and every one of them. They are too arrogant to attack a small clan because of one single person."
"I hope they won't." Xavier's expression turned dark. "If they would dare to touch anyone from my clan, I will train for 10 years and then come back to kill every single member of their faction." Phi felt the hair on her neck rise. She crossed her arms before her chest. Never before had she seen such an expression on Xavier's face. It sent a shiver down her spine. The surrounding men who noticed this felt the desire to pull her into a hug and protect her. As Xavier noticed, his face lightened up again. "Sorry, I did not want to bother you. I guess you don't care much for training," he jokingly said and laughed. Lady Phi smirked.
"What makes you think I don't care for training? I am a young master after all. It's just that I have never seen so much bloodlust in your eyes. It's kinda unsettling."
She looked up and down at Xavier. Suddenly, she froze. Her jaw dropped.
"Hold on. Is that a level 2 alchemist badge? When did you get that?"
Xavier laughed and waved it off. "Oh, it's a long story. I guess I just got lucky."
"Lucky? It should be impossible to be a level 2 alchemist for someone as young as you. It would take any normal person at least 6 years. How did you do it in 3?
She questioned. Xavier shrugged. He did not feel like going into too much detail. Instead, he let his gaze sweep over the hall. Suddenly, he realized that both he and Lady Phi had become the center of everyone's attention. He leaned forwards and whispered, "Are you in charge of this auction house?" Lady Phi smiled bitterly.
"Oh my, I wish. I am only here to supervise. However, I do have a lot of influence. Is there anything you need help with? I don't think you came here just to chat with me."
Xavier nodded. "Is there any quiet place we can talk?"
"Sure, just follow me."
Lady Phi gestured for Xavier to follow, turned around, and was about to leave when she suddenly saw the Ice Emperor. He was close to Xavier, watching the items on display with faked interest.
"Is this man with you?"
she asked. The Ice Emperor heard Lady Phi and shifted his attention back to her and Xavier. Huh? Should I just wait here while the two of you have a chat? I feel like I'm interrupting something here. He laughed. Lady Phi flushed.
Don't worry, I won't let Xavier's friends wait in the hallway when chatting with him. Please do come along.
Are you sure about that? I don't think I'm wealthy enough to afford such a treatment. The Ice Emperor laughed a bit. Lady Phi was surprised to hear this. She could clearly tell that the old man in front of her was extremely powerful. However, she could not tell how powerful exactly. Xavier, who saw Lady Phi's confused expression, said,
Ignore him. We had a long trip and he's probably just messing around because he's bored.
Lady Phi nodded and led the way toward a staircase within the hall. The heels on the ground click-clacked softly with every step she made. Countless gazes followed her. Xavier was unsure how she was able to deal with these men staring at her like that every day. He knew it was part of her job, but it must have been very upsetting to be constantly stared at by so many perverts. If they had stared at him in the same way, Xavier would have beaten them up. The few guards on the staircase carefully inspected Xavier and the Ice Emperor before letting them pass. According to the rules, people who were not members of the premier clan were usually not allowed to enter. However, since Lady Phi was a supervisor, she had a lot of influence. The guards could not help but bite their tongues as Xavier and the Ice Emperor followed her up the staircase. One of the guards gave Lady Phi a concerned and suspicious look. He was about to ask a question, but Lady Phi's deadly glare made him swallow any words he wanted to say down. Instead, Lady Phi said,
They are my friends. If anything happens, I will take responsibility for it.
She led them upstairs, but as Lady Phi saw something up there, she furrowed her brows. There were a few people coming down the staircase. The man who was leading the people was around Lady Phi's age. His face was sickly pale. Although he did not look very strong, he was actually someone who had just reached the level of a true master. Xavier could tell from the Q energy that surrounded him. He made no effort to hide it. Desire was in the man's eyes as he saw Lady Phi. His breathing became heavy. Instantly, Lady Phi's expression turned to one filled with disgust that she did not bother to hide. She coldly glared at the man. The man who saw Lady Phi's disgusted face turned sour.
Hey there, don't tell me you forgot that people who are not members of our clan are not allowed to enter. Aren't you supposed to be a supervisor? How does it come that you don't know about this? They are my friends. If anything happens, I will take responsibility.
Lady Phi repeated what she told the guard.
Now if you could please let us pass through.
She grabbed Xavier's hand and sped up her pace as she walked up the stairs. Seeing how Lady Phi took Xavier's hand, jealousy surged in the man's heart. He knew that she never let any man close to her, so seeing her so close to Xavier caused the man's blood to boil.
So that's the type of man you are into? I guess I am too old for you then. But can someone with no experience satisfy you?
He grinned at her. Lady Phi pretended not to hear the man. Xavier could sense how her red nails dug deeper into his hand. He sighed and looked at the pale man while shaking his head. He then turned to Lady Phi.
How do you deal with perverts like this all day? That must be so annoying. What was that, brat? Are you calling me a pervert?
The man gritted his teeth.
You should be careful, Xavier, Lady Phi interrupted. He is a true master.
A sneering grin appeared on the man's face as he looked at Xavier.
What? Do you want to pretend to be a hero to impress Phi? Admit it, you piece of shit. You don't have enough of a backbone to attack me here.
Xavier was done playing along and acting nice. He walked to the man on the staircase, tightened his fist, and smashed it into the man's face. The man could sense what was about to happen. He moved his hands and formed a Q energy cloak before Xavier's fist hit him.
That little bastard! Even if Phi wants to protect him, I will make sure he won't leave the auction house so easily.
The man sneered. Xavier's hit was forceful enough to break the Q energy cloak of the man and send him flying backward all the way up the stairs again. Instantly, the man threw up a mouthful of blood. Terror was in his eyes. He badly underestimated Xavier's strength. He curled up in pain. Lady Phi struggled to process what had just happened. Within the span of not even 5 seconds, Xavier turned the man into a crying mess with just one hit. Only a moment ago, she was worried about Xavier. The subordinates that were following the pale man suddenly regained their senses. As they saw the state their leader was in, anger and shock appeared on their faces. They stared at Xavier with furious eyes. Lady Phi could not bear this any longer.
I order all of you to get lost. If any of you dare to take one step toward my friends, I will kick you out of the premier auction house and ban you for life. Although I am not boss, I think my status as supervisor means that I need to make sure that trash like you won't cause any scene here,
she warned. The man coughed up some more blood and struggled to stand up. You got guts, Phi, helping an outsider, but just wait. There will be consequences, he hissed. Some of the subordinates helped the man to regain his balance. His expression was dark as he turned towards Xavier. Just you wait too. I will make sure you regret attacking me like this. He smacked the guy next to him. Idiot, let's go already. Xavier and Lady Phi watched the guy and his subordinates hurry down the stairs. The Ice Emperor leaned closer to Xavier and murmured, You are very composed. Personally, I don't think I would have let him run away. I would have killed him on the spot. Perhaps he will live up to his word and come back for revenge. Xavier nodded. Honestly, I thought the same, but I am in the house of the Premier Clan. They are a powerful force, and I don't want to upset them by killing someone in their headquarters. He then turned towards Lady Phi. I'm sorry, I guess I should not have overreacted like that. Lady Phi shook her head with a sigh. Perhaps we should discuss things on another day. Once he arrives at his home, he is going to complain about this to his grandfather. If his grandfather comes here, then we will be in a lot of trouble. Xavier waved her concerns off. Let's not worry about that. I really need to talk with you. If he shows up, I will deal with it myself. Lady Phi could only helplessly accept this. If you say so, if you are still as stubborn as you were 3 years ago, then there won't be any point in arguing with you. But be careful. His old grandfather is... Well, you don't want to upset him. He would also get mad at me. Xavier exchanged a worried glance with the Ice Emperor before they followed Lady Phi upstairs. Once they walked up a few floors, she led them through a hallway and stopped in front of a large ornate door. Next to the door were a few guards. Seeing how Lady Phi knew exactly where to go, it was clear to Xavier that she must have been very familiar with this place. He wondered how much time she spent here. The guards looked with suspicion at Xavier and the Ice Emperor, but since they were following Lady Phi, they did not dare to ask too many questions. Instead, they opened the door and let them enter. Behind the door was a spacious room. There were countless bookshelves, tables, and chairs. It looked like a library. A warm fireplace shed some red light. It was a lot cozier than the rest of the building. Lady Phi led the way until she reached a wooden desk and some chairs. She gestured at them. Please, have a seat. What was it that you were looking for here? Xavier smiled and sat down. After thinking for a moment, he asked, I have a feeling I just got you into trouble. Again, I'm sorry. How can I make up for that? Lady Phi waved it off. I know that you were only trying to defend me. I appreciate it. Don't worry about that guy. He is also a member of the Premier Clan. Usually, I would not offend him because of that, so all I can do is ignore him. However, I think ignoring him made him only more upset. She brushed a strand of her hair from her forehead. Exhaustion was in her eyes. It looks like she's been bothered by this guy for a while. The more you ignore him, the more desperately he will try to get your attention. Shouldn't you know that? Xavier raised an eyebrow. He expected that someone with so much experience as an auctioneer like Lady Phi should have enough social skills to know about this. Lady Phi laughed. Of course I know that. You think I'm an idiot? Don't underestimate me. I just said I don't want to provoke him, not that I will keep tolerating it. As soon as I am in a higher position, I will dispose of him like the trash that he is. I will make sure he will never dare to look at me again. Don't you know the saying, a woman's grudge lasts forever? A sinister smile spread across her face, causing Xavier and the Ice Emperor to look at her with a mix of shock and astonishment. But enough about that pervert. Let's talk about something else. If I hear any more about him, it will ruin my mood. What was it that you were looking for? I will help you find it, she added. Xavier smiled and nodded. He took out a list with the ingredients to refine the purple recovery pill. Secretly, he hoped that Lady Phi would not have any of the ingredients, so that he could draw the refining process out for a while longer. However, Xavier knew that if he did not ask for the ingredients here, the Ice Emperor would grow suspicious.
Please see how many of these ingredients you can gather here, he uttered. He handed the piece of paper to Lady Fi. Carefully, the Ice Emperor checked the list. On it were indeed the same ingredients that he wrote on the list for the Ice Emperor, making him glad. Lady Fi read over the list and shook her head. I should have figured. Look, Xavier, these ingredients are exceptionally rare. Some of them are ingredients I've never seen in my entire life. Xavier nodded. Secretly, he was glad to hear this. If Lady Fi had just handed him all of those ingredients, he would have been screwed. Without Lau's help, Xavier was unable to refine the purple recovery pill anyway. Do you think it will be possible for you to gather these ingredients here? If yes, how long do you think it will take you? Lady Fi shrugged. After thinking for a moment, she said, It will be extremely difficult to gather all of them. Also, even if I found them, only one of those ingredients would cost around 200,000 gold coins. I believe I could gather half of the ingredients on this list, and this with a lot of luck. The Ice Emperor looked sour as he heard this. Xavier, on the other hand, smiled broadly. That is good enough. Half of the ingredients is better than none at all. Lady Fi nodded and smiled. All right then, half of the list. That would be 4 ingredients. The price in total for those 4 ingredients would be around 1,000,000 gold coins. Are you able to pay this right now? Xavier was startled. He blinked a few times. 1,000,000 gold coins? I don't think I have so much money with me. Lady Fi began to laugh. Xavier, we are not in Wutan City anymore. Don't get me wrong. I would love to help you, but I can't. Xavier rubbed the back of his head. His face flushed red. I thought as much. 1,000,000 coins, though. That is a lot. What am I supposed to do? A mischievous smile spread over Lady Fi's face. I am sure you will find a way. Coincidentally, our premier clan is currently looking for an alchemist. If you are interested, then maybe you should apply for the position. A level 2 pill can sell for a good price. I am sure with your abilities, you should be able to gather 1,000,000 gold coins in no time. Selling my abilities? Xavier was unsure how to react. All he could do was laugh bitterly. He then turned to the Ice Emperor with a wave of his hands. Actually, maybe you should deal with this. I only said I will refine the pill for you, didn't I? After all, when hiring an alchemist, the person who hired the alchemist is responsible for gathering the ingredients. The Ice Emperor rolled his eyes with an annoyed expression on his face. He stood up and pulled out a card that was shimmering in golden purple. He threw the card on the table and said, You have some nerves bothering an alchemist for some lousy 1,000,000 gold coins. Isn't the premier clan above that? Go and gather the ingredients, young lady, and you better hurry. Lady Fi was stunned as she saw the card on the table. On this card were 7 silver lines. She immediately knew what this meant. Only someone who is at least a Q Master would get a golden 7-wave debit card. So this person is at least a Q Master. Lady Fi tried again to focus on the old man to figure out what level he was on, but he was clearly concealing his strength. Lady Fi swallowed and nodded. She then turned towards Xavier. Silently, she wondered what Xavier had been up to. Why would someone so powerful follow him along? She shook her head and picked up the card from the table. Slowly, she let her slender fingers rub over the mark on it to see if it was real. As she could sense that it was legit, she clapped her hands, and a young female servant entered through the door. Lady Fi wrote down some things and handed the piece of paper to the servant. Get these ingredients, pack them carefully, and bring them over as fast as you can. The servant nodded and headed quickly out of the room. Lady Fi took a bow in front of the Ice Emperor. Please wait for just a moment. It won't take so long. The Ice Emperor nodded and sat down on the chair again. Meanwhile, Lady Fi brought a few cups and poured the Ice Emperor, Xavier, and herself some tea as they waited. Learning about how powerful this old man is caused Lady Fi to gain a whole lot more respect for Xavier. There was a depressing silence between the three of them. Xavier frowned. He was about to say something to break the silence, as suddenly the servant hurried back. She was gasping for air. Her body was trembling as she stopped in front of Lady Fi. Where are the ingredients? Lady Fi frowned. The servant turned pale. The ingredients. They were taken by the Elder Lei wrong. He said the ingredients were reserved by someone else, so they cannot be sold to someone else. That bloody old bastard. Lady Fi lost all her composure. I can't believe this. These ingredients have been in the warehouse for months. How does it come I haven't heard that anyone reserved them? She scolded. What happened? Xavier furrowed his brows and looked at Lady Phi with a frown. Lady Phi took a deep breath and tried to gather her thoughts. She rubbed her temples with her fingers as she said with a bitter smile, That old bastard Lei Rong is the grandfather of the guy we ran into earlier, Lei. The old man is one of the elders of the premier clan. So he is using his authority for the sake of avenging his grandson? Xavier narrowed his eyes. Sounds like a great guy, he said sarcastically. The Ice Emperor did not say anything, but the cup of hot tea in his hands turned into ice. Meanwhile, Lady Phi stood up. This old bastard has really gone too far this time. I will talk to him myself. She turned to the servant next to her. Lead me to him. The servant could only nod and turn around. As she was about to lead the way, someone opened the door and huffed with anger. Talk with me? You have some nerves to want to chat with me after injuring my grandson. An old man in an extravagant blue robe that was decorated with silver patterns entered the room. Following him were a bunch of guards, and the guy from earlier that Xavier had a brief fight with. Elder Lei Rong, what is the meaning of this? Although you are an elder of the premier clan, I don't think you have permission to interfere with the business of the auction house. Do you want the auction house to lose its business? Lady Phi's expression turned grim. She clenched her hands into tight fists as she glared at the old man and the people surrounding him swarming into the room. The elder Lei Rong laughed coldly. You are talking a lot for a supervisor. If you ever manage to get a promotion and become an elder, then you can come back to me and talk like this. Not that I think it will come to this. After all, you are sneaking outsiders into the headquarters of our premier clan. When the next meeting of elders happens, I will make sure to bring this to everyone's attention. The old man let his eyes sweep over to the Ice Emperor and Xavier. The young Xavier did not gain much of his attention. The only thing that caught him off guard was the level 2 alchemist badge on his chest. However, he had met many level 2 alchemists before, so he was not too impressed. Despite Xavier's young age, the Ice Emperor, on the other hand, did catch some of the old Lei Rong's attention. Lei Rong could not sense any Q energy from the Ice Emperor. He figured that there could only be 2 reasons for this. Either the Ice Emperor was someone who surpassed the level of a battle spirit, or that he was so weak that there was no flow of Q energy in his body. Although Lei Rong did not know all the people in the Empire that were above the level of a battle spirit, he thought he should recognize someone of such a high level. The Ice Emperor in front of him did not have the appearance of someone powerful. He looked like an old man, hiding in some shabby robes, making Lei Rong huff. Elder Lei Rong, perhaps you forgot that some of our special clients are allowed to enter this part of the auction house. And about your grandson, Lei, what happened to him was his own fault. Lady Phi said coldly. Special client, huh? Lei Rong laughed. Then why don't you tell me who those clients are, so I can judge for myself how special they are? He licked over his lips. His connections within the capital were good. He knew many powerful people, but he had never seen Xavier or the Ice Emperor here before. Therefore, he could not believe that there was anything remarkable about them. Lady Phi froze. She knew of Xavier's identity, but also knew that this would not do enough to impress the arrogant elder Lei Rong. As for the Ice Emperor, she has never seen him before, although she could tell that he must have been powerful, since she could not sense his Q energy. She had no idea what else she could say about this man. Seeing how Lady Phi was at a loss for words, the elder Lei Rong was pleased. A smug smile spread over his face. Looks like you know that they are not worthy to be here. I will take note of this. You should never have become a supervisor here. You are clearly not suited for this position. Lady Phi turned red with anger. I'm not going to argue about this with you. The ingredients you are withholding were bought by those 2 men. They had already paid for it before you decided to steal the ingredients. Once word spreads, you can explain to our first elder why you were stealing from our clients. The words first elder caused the smug smile on Lei Rong's face to drop immediately. He tilted his head and glanced at his grandson before looking back at Lady Phi. As I have mentioned before, those ingredients were reserved by an important client of our auction house. We don't want to upset him, that is all. Oh, you fucking lying. Lady Phi was boiling with anger. She slammed her fist onto the table in front of her. If someone really reserved those ingredients, How does it come that I have not been informed of this? You're wasting time. He cannot be reasoned with.
Xavier interrupted. Let me take over from here. Lady Phi turned towards Xavier. She relaxed a bit, but then shook her head.
I am not sure if you should. He is a battle spirit. I don't think you can fight someone of that level.
Don't worry, I won't do anything, Xavier said with a mischievous smile. He will. The servant over. She said a few things and then turned back to the Ice Emperor.
I should apologize for this mess. The elder Lei Rong had no right to act the way he did. I imagine this left quite a bad impression. How about I give you half the price for the ingredients back, as an apology?
The face of the Ice Emperor relaxed, and he laughed. You do have some manners, young miss. All right, that is fine by me. Xavier smiled. As he suddenly remembered something, he turned to Lady Phi. Before I forget, can you help me to find something else? I need something that could help to recover someone's spiritual strength.
Recovering spiritual strength?
Lady Phi was at a loss for a moment. Silently, she thought. Eventually, she bit her lips and said,
I will check some of our books for this, but I cannot promise that I can help you to gather ingredients for it. This sounds like it would require a very advanced level of alchemy. Either way, let me check.
Lady Phi went over to one of the bookshelves. She searched through it for a while, pulling out book after book and searching through them. Each time she would shake her head and place the book back before reaching for another one. After a few minutes, she stopped. The frown on her face did not get Xavier's hopes up.
I'm sorry. We don't have any ingredients that could help to recover someone's spiritual strength. Things like these are extremely rare, even more so than the other ingredients you requested,
she informed, and walked back to the table where Xavier was waiting. Xavier's shoulders dropped. If not even she could help him, then he had no idea who else could. Helplessly, he nodded and thanked Lady Phi for her efforts. Not even a minute later, just as the 10 minutes were about to pass, Lei came rushing through the door. He stumbled and staggered towards the Ice Emperor, taking a deep bow and placing a few crystal boxes in front of him on the table. Sir, here are all the ingredients you have purchased, he huffed. A bright smile spread over the Ice Emperor's face. He turned towards Xavier. Please check them and let me know if they are the right ingredients needed. Xavier nodded and did as he was told. A moment later, he confirmed that those were 4 of the ingredients needed for the purple recovery pill, much to the Ice Emperor's happiness. That is great news. He let out a long breath. He then turned towards the elder Lei Rong. Now, get lost, and tell Louis Premier to give Lady Phi a promotion. For keeping up with all of this bullshit. She deserves it. Hearing this, Lei Rong's mouth twitched. All he could do was nod, take an apologetic bow, and leave the room with staggering steps while his grandson supported him. Xavier was about to thank Lady Phi and bid her farewell when suddenly a servant walked up to her. The servant appeared to be concerned about something. With a soft voice, the servant said,
Lady Phi, the young lady Nalan wishes to talk to you regarding something.
Nalan? Yan Nalan? Xavier's heart skipped a beat as he heard this name. Shock spread over his face. Is she here? Why? What is she doing here? He hissed. On showing up at the auction house. Helplessly, she turned over to Xavier. His expression turned gloomy. Lady Phi bit her lips and swallowed. She turned to the servant.
Lady Yan Nalan?
The servant nodded.
Why is she looking for me?
Lady Phi asked. She furrowed her brows together and turned to Xavier.
I am sorry. I don't want to upset you.
Xavier waved it off. I won't blame you for doing your job. The auction house has public access after all. Lady Phi relaxed as she heard this.
Thank you. I'm glad you understand. Either way, I imagine you don't want to run into her, so maybe it's for the better if you and your friend Hai wait for a bit here. Afterward, I will come back and escort you out.
Xavier nodded. That sounds like it would be for the best, and please don't tell her that you have met me.
Of course not. Don't worry.
Lady Phi replied and smiled. She told her servant to look after Xavier and the Ice Emperor Hai while she was gone, and walked out of the room. The Ice Emperor waited until Lady Phi was gone before turning towards Xavier. You have some business with that Lady Yan Nalan? Xavier nodded. His expression was sour, making the Ice Emperor chuckle. Don't tell me you are going to fight the faction of the Misty Clouds because of her. Xavier did not reply, which was enough of an answer. The Ice Emperor rolled his eyes and shook his head. He tried to make sense of what Lady Yan Nalan could have done to upset Xavier so much that he was willing to fight the faction of the Misty Clouds. An awkward silence followed. The Ice Emperor eventually broke it by asking, Why were you trying to find something to recover spiritual strength? Did you damage your spiritual strength? Xavier's mouth twitched slightly. He could not tell the Ice Emperor that he was looking for ingredients so that he could help his master Lao, who was still fast asleep after using up his spiritual strength to protect Xavier. Instead, Xavier said, It's some side effect after merging the two heavenly flames the last time. This was enough to explain what had happened without having to lie directly. After all, he was looking for something to recover spiritual strength after merging the two heavenly flames. The only thing Xavier did not mention was that it was not his own spiritual strength that needed recovering. The Ice Emperor understood and nodded. I see. That's unfortunate, but to be expected. With two powerful forces like two heavenly flames, nothing good could come out of using it so recklessly. But I imagine you've learned your lesson, so there is no point lecturing you about it again. Either way, how bad is it? Xavier sighed. His heartbeat sped up. It is nothing serious or deadly, but it's also not a common type of injury. I was hoping to find some ingredients that could help me speed things up. Otherwise, I'm not sure how long it will take for me to recover. This vague reply made the Ice Emperor furrow his brows. He tilted his head and carefully looked at Xavier. The Ice Emperor's lips twitched a bit, but he did not say anything. Instead, he reached for a teacup in front of him and took a sip. The atmosphere in the room was heavy. Xavier silently wondered if the Ice Emperor knew something was up. The way he reacted made Xavier swallow hard. Anxiety spread in his heart. He did not like having to lie to anyone, especially not someone as powerful as the Ice Emperor. But Xavier knew he was in too deep to turn around now. After almost half an hour of this unbearable silence, the sound of high heels on the hard ground could be heard. Moments later, Lady Phi entered the room again. Xavier raised his head. Is Yan Nalan gone? Lady Phi nodded. She smiled at Xavier as she walked up to him. Yes, she left. There is something I wanted to ask you before escorting you out. What is it? Xavier raised an eyebrow. Xavier. Lady Phi started, and she sat down on a chair next to Xavier, looking at him intently. You need those ingredients to recover your spiritual strength urgently. Xavier's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly nodded. Yes, I do. Why? Did you find some at the auction house after all? Lady Phi shook her head. No, those sorts of ingredients are very rare. However, according to some rumors I have heard, a certain clan in the capital has a unique ingredient named green spirit plant. Its roots can be refined into a sort of liquid called green spirit saliva. I've heard this is used to help someone recover their spiritual strength. Although I am not an alchemist, I'm not sure how this is done. You will have to figure out for yourself if just the green spirit saliva will be enough, or if you need to refine it into a pill with something else. Xavier's eyes lit up with a spark of new hope. A smile spread over his face. That's no problem. I can figure that out on my own. What clan has this plant? I will immediately go there. Lady Phi pushed her lips together. Well, you see... Don't tell me it's the faction of the Misty Clouds. Xavier's smile dropped. Lady Phi laughed. Oh dear, no. It's not the faction of the Misty Clouds, but, well, they are connected. Don't tell me it's the Nalan clan, he added. A bitter smile surfaced on Lady Phi, and she nodded. Sorry. Xavier sighed and rubbed his temples. Of course, I should have expected this, and I imagine this plant is a priceless rare treasure that they won't sell me. Lady Phi nodded again. You sure got that right. Xavier bit his lips. Oh man, what am I supposed to do then? If I can't buy it, then I would have to steal it. But I don't know how to feel about this. Lady Phi pretended to be shocked as she heard this, and gasped in an exaggerated manner.
Stealing? Xavier, what are you talking about? The Nalan clan is one of the biggest clans in the Empire. It is almost as powerful as the Premier clan. And have you seen the defenses here? If one broke in, they would be killed on the spot. Even with the help of your powerful friend Hai, you would have no chance to break into the Nalan clan. Besides, if you would get caught on your way out and fight back, then there is a chance that the Green Spirit plant might get destroyed. You don't want to risk that, do you?
Xavier frowned. Well, if I can't buy it and can't steal it, then what am I supposed to do? Do you have any suggestions?
Lady Phi smirked. Let's see. The old grandfather of the Nalan clan had a fight with a venomous level 5 monster a few years ago. It is referred to as the Searing Iron Monster. Although the old man managed to kill it, the famous poison of the monster was already in his body. Since you are an alchemist, I am sure you know how potent a monster's poison can be, especially the poison of a level 5 monster.
I can imagine, but I don't think I have ever heard of this monster.
Xavier thought for a moment. He tried to learn as much about monsters as he could in the mountain range of monsters, but he did not remember hearing about this one. Lady Phi nodded. It is a very rare monster. So rare, in fact, that the chances of running into one are almost non-existent. That is why no one really talks about it. The old man had some really bad luck to encounter one, and given everything, he went off easy anyway. It could have ended up a lot worse for him if he would have not been as powerful as he was.
All right, good for him. But how does any of this relate to the Green Spirit plant?
Xavier looked at Lady Phi with a curious expression. He knew she would not bring this story up if it were not connected to the Green Spirit plant that Xavier needed. Lady Phi smirked mischievously. Let me finish my story. I will get to it. Anyway, during the last few years, the old man from the Nalan clan used his Q energy to suppress the poison. However, now that he is getting older, this is getting harder for him to do, and half a month ago, the poison erupted in his body. Now his strength, even though he is a Q master, seems to have collapsed, and the Nalan clan is searching for an alchemist to save him.
Finding an alchemist to save him? But isn't Yan Nalan a member of the faction of the Misty Clouds? They have the Pill King Lucian who could help out. Or not.
Xavier furrowed his brows. This did not make much sense to him. They did want to do this. Lady Phi nodded and sighed. But unfortunately, the Pill King lacks the necessary ability to repel the poison from the old man's body.
Xavier frowned. Not even the Pill King can help him? Then what makes you think I could?
Well, the Pill King told them of a way to get rid of the poison. However, an alchemist would need a very high temperature to do so, and only a heavenly flame has enough heat to do so. Lady Phi explained. They offer a large number of gold coins to anyone who could help the old man to get rid of the poison. They offer so many gold coins that even our premier clan got interested. Not to mention, a bunch of priceless ingredients that any alchemist would drool over, including the green spirit plant. There have been many alchemists who tried to help the old man, but none of them managed so far. Perhaps you should go and try. After all, the old man is not to blame for what happened between you and Lady Yan Nalan. I have heard he even was furious at her after what happened.